G'day guys, goeiedag, kia ora. My name is Wildkard. Yes, if you are a long-term Super Rugby fan, and like me, and you probably had some nostalgic feelings watching this game, because I still remember having some very, I guess, unfond memories when I was a child, watching my favorite Super Rugby team at a Sunday morning playing against the Cats and losing in just astonishing fashion. Okay, it's quite an experience, that you will never forget. And I'm sure a lot of you die-hard dedicated, New Zealand fans watching this game probably had that little bit of a nostalgic fear crept into your bodies as you were watching this absolutely outstanding performance from the South Africans, Cats team. I'm not gonna call them Cats because I've always called them Cats, and I think they should change the name back from this, incredible performance from the Cats team. And now, first of all, going to this game, I already knew that the Cats were one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient teams in terms of converting territory into points at the URC. Unfortunately, I am sorry, I'm not a professional, anything. I did not watch the Cats play because they didn't quite make it into the URC Final Four. But I've heard a lot of good things. I've studied some of the strategies, and they are one of the more of a free flow style of rugby, right? There were games where they almost had nothing going for them, and only for that few visits that they had in the opposition of 22 or opposition half to convert them very efficiently into tries. And that is pretty much what we saw in this game on brand for what the Cats has been doing recently, and it's just outstanding. They've got some pretty good players as well. Kieran Horn was outstanding, I think, and Smith as well, who used to play for the Bulls. I think it was the Bulls. And if, what it was an interesting fact, if the Cats had been in the All Blacks today, Chris Smith would have been the only player ever to play for two different club teams and beaten the two top-ranked national teams, because the Bulls beat the South Africans in the Lions warm-up during COVID. And if he had been the All Blacks today, would have been one of the greatest achievements of anybody to be able to say that you beat the All Blacks and the Springboks and you're South African whilst playing for your club teams. It is just absolutely incredible for him if that was to happen. And this was the All Blacks really had to go all the way till the last minute to pull this team away. It was basically the final play. The All Blacks finally getting that scrum back into shape to get themselves that opportunity, that platform to win the game. We did see the big return of Richie Mo'unga, and then with Beauden Barrett on the field, I did think that the two players were clashing a little bit in terms of style, and both of them, it was very disconnected between the two. There was clearly two, playmakers out on the field, and it's almost like Beauden, despite wearing the 15 jersey, was a lot of times actually playing the 10, and vice versa with Richie Mo'unga, and there's a lot of disconnect as a result of that. And because of the disconnect with the two playmakers, there was a lot. What the All Blacks found most success was like the little short ball passes amongst the players, using the wider channels, just kind of taking that, playmaking, deal, to, amongst the players, instead of, putting it onto like one or two players to make the big decision. So they kind of taken that out of the big decision makers and just made a lot of little intricate plays, and that has worked out for the All Blacks, especially in the second half. Now for the scrum, let's talk about the scrum first. This once again, I think the All Blacks fans, if you are an All Black fan, this is a team that's the B team, and probably most of these players won't play maybe in the third test or fourth test. Maybe they get a chance there, but most of them probably won't. And but still, I think that one of the key themes that has been going so well for the All Blacks under Dave Rennie is the fact that the team finishes stronger than they started, and that is one, something that did not happen under Razor. Quite often, the All Blacks under Razor Robertson, more often than not, the team finished the game worse than they started, and this team has consistently finished stronger than they started, which is really, really good sign. It means that just maturity of mentality and the maturity of just being able to problem solve what's in front of you and getting yourself back together when things aren't going correctly. And scrums, I think, is one of the best example of this. Early on, this was the very first scrum. Now, the All Blacks has opted for a couple of newer players for the scrummaging from the Highlanders. Now, outside of Ethan de Groot, I do think the Highlander scrum was pretty poor in my opinion. So, obviously, they wanted to give this players opportunity to grow, so which is fine, but still, you can just tell that there's a bit of a until the reserves came on, the Numir came on from the Hurricanes. You can just tell some of these players are a little bit lacking. Now, obviously, Tossi plays for Hurricanes as well. He struggled in the first game against Stormers, and again, he struggled a little bit again in this scrum. Go watch this one. This player here. What's his name? Highlander guy. What's his name? Let's get his name up. He's already too high on engagement. You can tell there. Who's this guy? Does it not show? It's this one. Lawaki. So you can tell that he's a bit too high and unsteady on engagement. And then I immediately thought that this might end up hurting them, and sure enough, as the pressure built, as the the reserve prop came on for the Cats, who was outstanding on the number 18 jersey, they just give him get his name up. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with these players. Like I said, I didn't have time to watch the URC. Number 18, actually, it's this guy, Skuman. He was absolutely outstanding, and as a result, the Cats actually had a walkover try. Like, my goodness, a walkover try against the All Blacks. That is absolutely sensational, and that is precisely because the body positions just not quite lining up. There was a number of times where the scrum couldn't take the hit as well. With some of these players, with some of the Highlanders front rowers, and finally the All Blacks with Numir coming on. I think that's Numir. The scrum finally got a bit better, and it's interesting, right? Is that actually Numir a tight head? Because Numir normally plays a loose head. Because that's just so interesting. Yeah, it's Numir, and he's playing a tight head. Is this correct? He's been put on a tight head. Ma'u. Is that actually Numir a tight head? Or is that Ma'u? They just look very similar. No, it's 18, so it is Ma'u. And this is a much better scrum with Numir on the field on the loose side of that as well. And this is like what you want to see, be able to adjust and not only just about like the chase on the foot. Yeah, look at that little chase. He did that. He got two tight head turnovers because of the little chase on the foot. And this is just a beautiful scrum. Both no angling, both sides going forward, and just sheer timing and power getting that penalty. There was a turnover earlier as well with the scrum. So just being able to adjust to these little things is really, 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 really nice to see for the All Blacks there as well. The scrums aside, I thought Riku Ioane had a really outstanding game. He has spent some time at Leinster. He looked like he got a bit bigger, but he was able to quite utilize that space outside of him quite well with that under that 13 jersey. I think got 2 tries this game, at least 1, and some good hands as well. I think 2 tries. He got an intercept as well, and I think when he got that intercept try, I really felt like the All Blacks probably gonna have a chance to come back to this one. Again, there was a lot of disconnect with Nye and 10 as well to Noah Hotham, despite obviously a Crusader man. Quite a few mistakes early on through intercepts, but I think those mistakes aside, I do think that he's a little bit disconnected as well with Richie Mo'unga, which kind of exacerbated the problem. I think it's just the fact that the player hasn't played with anybody in the All Blacks team for like a year and a half, 2 years at this point, Richie Mo'unga. So it is kind of like everybody's kind of like deer-eyed out there looking at each other and trying to figure out what people are thinking a little bit. And then we've got the kicking game as well. I think the Cats did really good abusing the altitude and putting the kicks much longer than than what the South Africans national team would do with up and unders. And just that you can just tell that the Lions are much more, obviously this is their home field, much more attuned to the longer kicking from the altitude, and really played that into their advantage quite a little bit. And the overall, I thought the breakdown was also really, really good for the Cats. And the All Blacks, again, number of times got turned over at the breakdowns. And just, I think the lack of commitment. Well, once again, obviously, the starting team is much better. I thought has still a little bit of work there to really try to polish it up and close that opportunity, especially going into next test against the Springboks. And in the end of the day, I do think that if you're a Cass fan, you'll be very, very, very proud of this performance. And overall, it's like to put any sort of meaningful points against the All Blacks is already an outstanding achievement. Considering like what the Sharks didn't score any points. This is absolutely outstanding to almost beat the All Blacks. And you probably if the All Blacks hadn't scored at the end there, you may have if all it takes is one penalty, one breakdown. That lack of concentration, the breakdown that happened so many times this game, could just win you the game with a long range 50-meter penalty, right? And it was just that close, this one, for the Cats to almost put out the upset. I think in the end, I think the most important part, if you are Dave Rennie, is considering the fitness issue. I would not be surprised. I think maybe some of you guys will know if most of the team has already left for Cape Town, and then this is just like the players left over. The core players have already gone because the preparation is quite short going into next test against the Springboks, and the Springboks team has been announced, and it's absolutely brutal. And this is the first time a team has announced 24 players. I'm just gonna start doing this. Everybody just start announcing, 2 players for one position. Sia Khaleesi and Paul de Villiers. I think obviously I get the idea, right? Sia Khaleesi should be playing unless they think that he might still have a bit of a niggling injury issues, but still, just announce the team with an extra player. And number 6 jersey is quite funny, but this is a very, very strong team. Just a quick reaction. Ethan Cooker, I think Cheslin Kobe had a bit of an injury. It's been called in here, and Ryan Arch is in as well because Grant Williams also had a bit of some issue. But boy, this is and also big return on the bench. Thomas Dutoy, I think that'll make the big difference for the team there. So, and Dion Fury most likely will come on as an Openside flanker instead of a hooker. So Malcolm Marx played 80 minutes last week, and then that's most likely going to be the case again. And Fury will only play hooker if Malcolm Marx gets hurt, which means they have actually 4 named Openside flankers. You got Dion Fury, you got Andre Esterhuizen, and then you got Sia Khaleesi and Paul de Villiers. The first time ever, 4 Openside flankers named in one team. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We just wanted to have a bit of a laugh. But anyway, let's have a look at the stats of the game between the Lions and the All Blacks. 5 tries to 3, 903 run minutes. The All Blacks was not, like I said, they were not entertained to play the kicking game. They were trying to run the ball just about anywhere on the field, and I think that's the style they wanted to play against the Springboks, and just taking the opportunity to go for it. And even when you were losing the game, they were still pretty keen to keep sticking to the game plan. Not, there was one point I thought they were going to take a penalty goal at the end just to put it out of the 1 point difference before the final try was scored, and they backed themselves to get the try, which again just really, really important. 903 meters to 332, 150 carries to 77 for the All Blacks. 38 defenders beaten for the All Blacks, 22 for the Cats. That is really good as well. 15 clean breaks for the All Blacks, 4 for the Cats. I reckon like 5 of them were just before Rico Ioane. He was really outstanding there. 229 passes. Like I said, it was the little passes is what made the difference for the All Blacks. The Cats, 91 passes overall, 20 offloads for the All Blacks, 7 for the Cats, and turnovers conceded, 18. So the Cats done a great job there. Only 16 turnovers conceded themselves. For the defense, 147 tackles for the Cats, 38 missed tackles, 85 for the All Blacks, 22. So also quite high for a test team, considering you only have to make 85 tackles overall. Turnovers 1, 10 for the Cats, 9 for the All Blacks. So again, the breakdown is something that the All Blacks not really at 100%. Still can be polished up a little bit. 25 kicks in play. 18 for the All Blacks, definitely winning that kicking game. I guess taking advantage of that kicking game more, like I said. 1 penalty goal attempt hit the post for the Cats, but no penalty attempts for the All Blacks whatsoever. On the breakdown, 48 rucks, 6 lost, 84 for the All Blacks, 6 locks as well. It's actually not that bad. I thought it was worse than the 6. I thought there was quite a bit of pressure there for the Cats. More 1-2 for the Cats and 5 against the All Blacks. Set plays, lineouts, 13 Cats, no loss. 12 for the All Blacks, 1 loss as well. So perfect lineout execution from the South Africans there. 8 scrums won, 2 scrums lost. Tied head feeds because the All Blacks bench came on and really made a bit of a difference. 2 scrums for the All Blacks, no losses there. Despite tremendous pressure early on and giving away penalties on the opposition feed. Finally, I think discipline. 6 penalties against the Cats, 8 against the All Blacks. Not too bad. Not too bad. Angus Garner is someone that's really clear and concise on the field, and he will be the referee for the 3rd test, probably one of the most important tests in the whole series. He will be the referee there, so he's very concise, and I like the way that they manage the game. Very fast. You know, the TMO only calls the referee when there's something very specific actually happens, and then the TMO will make a quick decision, and I think this is exactly how it should be done. And Angus Garner is the best referee in the world right now, I think, and he's very concise, and that's why the penalty count is so low, because when players make a mistake, he gives the player an opportunity to not influence the game and allow the game to play on. So it's not just like, okay, you're offside, there we go. He will tell you, get back, and then if you don't interrupt the game, he will just let it play on. But if you, it is, I think that's a really nice way to go about it, instead of just, giving away a penalty, just issuing penalty when there's inconsequential, essentially, for the opposition. And I think that's a really, really good way to go about it. So very low penalty count for both teams, only 6 for the Cats and 8 against the All Blacks. So anyway, let's do a quick recap of the game. Quite a few try scores. You should go watch the highlights. It's a very, very entertaining game. So the what is it? There was a poor exit for the All Blacks. The Noah Hotham kicked the ball out on the full, and then the Lions just camped inside the All Blacks 22. Lots of crash balls. The number 9 staying dummy and went for himself. There was a few runners, and then everybody was drifting. Just went straight through. 7 points to nil. 7 minutes in the game, Noah Hotham made another mistake. There was the All Black lineout. He threw an intercept, and then the Cats scored 14 points to nil. 7 minutes in, Cats leading 40 points to nil. 10 minutes in the game, finally the All Blacks was able to get a bit of a momentum. They were inside the Cats 22, I think around the 22, and then Hotham was looking like he's going to taking the ball out for a pass, and then Nadawa, the sneaky guy sitting next to the rock, picked up the ball and ran straight through without a pillar in front of him, and 14 points to 7. 14 minutes into the game, the Cats tried for a penalty and he hit the post. 24 minutes in the game, the All Blacks once again spreading the ball on both sides of the field. They had a nice run down the left-hand side with Nadawa, and then he went back to the right-hand side. Beauden Barrett, little back flick pass to Tui Pelotu, and then pass to Nadawa again, going in for the try. 14 points to 12. 33 minutes in the game, there was another good run from Q1 Horn. Some nice pressure from the Cats, and then eventually they end up into the corner. What's his name? Kelly Peggle, I think his name is. 21 points to 12. And then just before halftime, the All Blacks did able to score a very nice run from Fihi Faka Anofo. He got into the red zone, and then the ball went out to the right-hand side, and it come back to the left. There was an overlap with Ethan Blackadder, crashes in, 21 points to 17. Beauden Barrett missed 2 conversions in the first half. That's the halftime score. In the second half, right away, the Cats had it up and under, and it was recovered by the number 11, Cornier. I think his name is how to say Cornier. I think I don't know how to say his name. I can't say it properly. He recovered it, and then he passed to the winger. The winger ran down the sideline. He was getting pushed out. He threw the ball back in the field, and then Cornier kicked the ball through, and then scored. 28 points to 18. This looked like it was inches away from going into touch. 46 minutes into the game, there was a scrum for the Cats, and they pushed it over for the try. 35 points to 17. At this point, I think if you're a Kiwi, you're having absolutely nightmares. You think this is a dream, and you haven't woken up yet, right? 49 minutes in the game, Rico gets the ball, gets a little backdoor play in midfield, and then he just swung around into a bit of an open space and then just cut straight through. 35 points to 24. 55 minutes again, Rico Ioane once again stepping up for his team, for his country. He intercepts the pass straight through, 35 points to 31. 62 minutes in the game, the All Blacks reserves coming on and starting to ramp up the pressure. Lots of nice ball in hand, keeping the ball alive. Riku Ioane ran through a little gap again. Inside ball to Ethan Blackadder, who ran in for the try. 35 points to 36. All Blacks ticks up 1 point. 74 minutes, the All Blacks had a scrum turnover one, which was huge. And finally, 79. They couldn't kick in the three there. I thought they were considering taking the three, but no, they backed themselves. At 79 minutes, there was a scrum penalty inside the 22, like we saw just then. The ball went out wide to Peter Lakai, who ran into to the corner for the try. The final score, 35 points to 41. He took the very last play for the All Blacks to finally close out the Cats. And what an outstanding performance if you're a South African and you're a massive Cats fan. Anyway, thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys for the news and the team announcement for both teams. I don't know if I want to do 2 videos, but anyway, we'll do that. And then we've got the Wallabies and then the All Blacks versus Springboks this weekend. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Cheers.